regarding the political theory and different approaches of the political theory was given to me to take your class. And here we have to discuss many things regarding the political philosophy, uh, regarding the objectives of the political theory, and different developments in the political theory, the definitions of the political theory, the different concept like rights or justice, different approaches, that is historical, normative and empirical approaches, with supplementing contemporary approach, and ultimately we sum up our first unit, that is we are discussing our first block, that is unit first, what is political theory, two approaches, that is normative and empirical. Before going to discuss the political theory, we must have to understand the necessity or what is theory. Earlier, the political theory is one of the most important area of discussion, and earlier they termed it as the political philosopher or scientist. But recently it was appropriate to, or more appropriate rather, to view the existence of or the social existence of human being in the society through political theory. And there could be no science without theory. These two terms, that is used synonymously with political science, that is your philosophy and your political science. So political theory may be used synonymously with political science, and it is emerged as an academic discipline and this political theory as a new subject because in political science you have to study the behavior of the individual, in different aspects of human life. So now we shall discuss about this political theory and other interrelated terms relating to the political theory. Distinctions can be made between political theory and similar other related terms. That is point 2. That is political philosophy, political ideology, political thought, and the opinion of different political scientists with regard to this term. Political science and political philosophy have different meaning. Political science provide possible generalizations, laws, politics, and political behavior. The differentiation between political theory and political science arise because a general shift in the intellectual perception brought about by the modern scientists. Because in political science, we have to study the human behavior, and human behavior is always changeable. So, it consider the best question of best political order, which is a part of larger and a more fundamental question, namely the ideal form of life a human being ought to lead with a larger community. Political theory reflects political phenomena, process, and institutions on the actual political behavior. It provides a ideal form of life that a human being ought to lead within the larger community. I mean to say that it reflects the political phenomenon, process, and institutions, different institutions, as you find, that is government, legislature, all these institutions are to be studied, and it provides a ideal form of life that a human being ought to lead, and it also represents the entire knowledge about the mankind. As I have already stated you that the political science always deals with the behavior of the human being, and human being always try to lead a good life or a better life. Political philosophy, on the other hand, provides general answer to the questions like justice, or you may say it establishes a relationship between is and ought. And this is the larger issue of the politics. So attempts had been made to differentiate political philosophy from the political theory. It provides general answer to the questions of what is justice, particularly with the different concept of political science. It also tries to establish relationship between different concept. The political philosophy is a complex activity which is understood by analyzing many ways that acknowledge in day-to-day life. So I mean to say that political philosophy analyze the different concepts of the political science, and in this way It will differentiate from the political theory. Next, that is political thoughts. It includes the different theories to explain the political behavior and values, to evaluate it, and values to evaluate it, and methods to control it. Political thought is the whole community that includes different writings, speeches, articles, sections of different political scientists or professionals. The thought can be in the form of treaties, scholarly articles, speeches, government policies and decisions, and also poems and prose. Political ideology. Next point of our discussion is political ideology. Political ideology deals with human nature. John Locke is often described as father of modern ideologies. All the political ideology is political philosophy. In 20th century, there are many ideologies like fascism, Nazism, communism, liberalism, and different ideologies have developed their own conception and own principle. So now we shall discuss the views of the Plato regarding the opinion and the knowledge. He stated that knowledge is the starting point of the political theorist. Every political theorist has to play a dual role, one as a scientist and other as a philosopher. So political theory is a totally calm and impartial. As a science, it is described as political reality without passing any judgment on what being depicted either implicitly or explicitly. As a science, as a science, it describes as or provide judgment implicitly, like science. As a philosophy, it provides rules and conduct to each and every society. The intention of ideology is to justify the particular system of power in a society. It means the different ideology prevails in the political science or discussed in the political science. They try to justify themselves in a particular system of power in the society. Could you follow my point? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Whenever we discuss
Yes, sir.
any political science, or any political ideology, that may be communism, that may be Marxism, that may be liberalism. They try to justify their particular system in terms of power in the society. That means how power were derived in the society. And in this way, they try to justify their own theory. So how, now we shall discuss about the how political theory developed. Development means, listen to my point, development means change. And change is due to challenges. You feel in your throughout life that there is development. When you feel development, ବୁଝିପାରୁଛ ତ ପିଲେ? ହ୍ୟାଲୋ,
yes sir.
କି ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ କହିମା ଟିକେ ଟିକେ?
ଟିକେ ଟିକେ କହିତେ ଗଲେ ଭଲ ତା ସାର୍ ଟିକେ
ଆଚ୍ଛା ଆଚ୍ଛା,
ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ।
ହେଲେ ଟୁ ୱେ ପ୍ରୋସେସ୍ ଅଫ୍ ଇଣ୍ଟରାକ୍ସନ୍ ଯଦି ହେବା ବେଲେ କିଛିଟା ଜିନିଷ ତୁମେ ବୁଝିପାରବ ହେଲା। ବିକଜ ଦ ରିଜନ୍ ଇଜ୍ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ଇଟା ଆମର ମାନେ ଫିଜିକାଲ କ୍ଲାସରୁମ୍ नुहे जे इच एंड एवरी पॉइंट डिस्कशन करमा आमे आउ से जिनिस के एक्सप्लेन करी हेबा। तो टू वे प्रोसेस ऑफ इंटरेक्शन जेन जगह रे तुमे माने बुझी नै पारबो व्हेन एवर यू कुड नॉट अंडरस्टैंड देन यू आस्क मी हला।
yes sir
तो
Okay,
डेवलपमेंट
sir.
तुमे हां डेवलपमेंट व्हेन एवर यू सी डेवलपमेंट दैट मींस चेंज। तुमे देखुथबो जे डेवलपमेंट जदी होउछे बेला हमें जदी कहूछु it means there is change and that change is due to challenges in a particular time गुटे given period of time रे से चेंज ता हमें देखबार के पैसु आउ से चेंज हेले the development comes whether that may be positive development or that may be negative development सेटा पॉजिटिव भी हे पारे नेगेटिव भी हे पारे हला। किंतु पॉलिटिकल थ्योरी रे भी the same could be took place. That means where this change is necessary because a human being is always want to live a good life or a better pattern of life. प्रत्येक मनीष काना चाहसी जे नहीं से सबु बेले केनता भल करी रहू। That means try to enhance the quality of life and accordingly the change took place. So in case of political theory also or development in the political theory took place because due to new challenges emerged in front of the political science and the challenges in a particular time due to that is societal challenges. So, and these challenges, say for an example, we cannot avoid the challenge or the challenge come in front of us or in a particular given time. I mean to say that the challenges come in the society and it is bound to come by virtue of space, situation. Whenever there is development, there is change. And change is due to the challenges in the society. This is where political theory try to reach to the root of the problem and not to compromise and find out the remedial solution for the same in the way of different principle. That is the reason it needs a vision. I mean to say that whenever and wherever there is a challenge in front of the society or in front of the any situation, that means we try to justify ourselves or try to adjust ourselves with having a clear cut vision to face the challenge, and that brings development within us. So political theory also develop by facing different challenges come in front of it in different time, and on the basis of which this political theory tries to develop time and again. So my point is that political theory is differentiate from art and poetry in a manner that in a art or in a poetry or in political theory act with a definite design with conscious effort. How shall we differentiate? In a political theory, a conscious effort is made by the political scientist with a definite design. But in case of poem, poetry or art, it act in a spontaneous process. ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ you see political theory ଗୋଟେ definite design ଆଉ conscious effort, that means ଆମେ କୌଣସି ବି ଜିନିଷ ଯଦି କରୁଛୁ ବେଲେ ସେଟା ଆମର conscious efforts ନେଇକରି ଆମେ କରୁଛୁ। କିନ୍ତୁ in case of poetry or in case of art, କୌଣସି ଗୋଟେ ଚିତ୍ର ଯଦି ଅଙ୍କା ଯାଉଛି କିମ୍ବା କୌଣସି ଗୋଟେ poem ଯଦି ଲେଖା ଯାଉଛି, that is a spontaneous process. ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ କାଟସୁଁ କିଛି ଜିନିଷ ସେଟା, that means each and every artist try to justify his idea or try to reflect his idea on the particular portrait, and that is a spontaneous process. Just like same it could happen in case of the poetry also. So in this way differentiate the theory from the art and poetry. So now we shall discuss about the important key theoretical concepts. We have to study different situation, we have to study different institutions to understand the nature of society. While studying different institutions, we have to come across with different type of institutional arrangements which will vary from society to society. While study of institutions is possible, one has to realize the institutional arrangement vary from society to society, because they are depends upon their sets of ideas. So to understand the nature of the society, we have to study the different institutions. And these different institutions has to come across with different type of institutional arrangements which will vary in each and every society. But in this way, we can analyze the different institutions and its existence in the society. So now we discuss about the each political theory is dead. Whether the political theory is dead one or it was relevant. In the middle of the 20th century, many of the political science they observed that it is a death. Some writers wrote about the non-existence due to the value-laden judgment without empirical testing, and it is because of the classical traditions in the political theory. That means in the 20th century, what happened? Some of the political scientists or writer they wrote about the non-existence of the political theory, and it is due to the value-laden judgment without empirical testing, and it is due to the that is your classical traditions in the political theory. That means in 20th century, some of the writers they feel there is non-existence of the political theory due to the value-laden judgment and without empirical testing. That means at that time what happened, there is no empirical testing could took place in the political science, and that is the reason why the writers or the political scientists they feel that it is dead. Instance one of the political scientists, he also struggle and says that, and says that as a political theory is concerns with historical form, it has lost its constructive role, and it is due to the loss of constructive approach. Professor David Easton is one of the leading political scientists. He also feels that due to the historical reason that political science lost its existence due to the loss of constructive approach. But on the other hand, from the historical point of view, they develop such a state of mind and feels that there is no need of inquiry into the merit of the moral values, just merely to understand its origin, development, and social impact. Later on, this political theory revives due to the that is your empirical analysis of these political theories. And broadly speaking, three different concepts emerge in the political theory. One is the political theory, that is, one is the historical approach, next one is the normative approach, and third one is the empirical approach. So we shall have to discuss the historical approach, or this approach one by one, that is historical, normative, and empirical. Many theorists or political scientists like Sabine, G.H. Sabine, is one of the main exponent of the historical theory. He opines that or he says that in this perspective, he is of the opinion that political theory becomes situation dependent, in which each historical situation set a problem, which in turn is taken care of through solution devised by the theory. Sabine says a question of such, what is the nature of political theory? That means he believes in the historical approach, and the history of idea may tells us that our social and political universe is a product of all those things which are rooted in the past. And we know them by evaluating certain values, norms, expectations, and various forms. And taking into considerations the historical aspect, the utility of this approach is beyond certain level is doubtful, because as we know that the human behavior cannot be predictable. So what happens today that may change tomorrow. The situations may not be the same. What is today and what happens to be in the next. So in this way, the utility of this approach or the historical approach is doubtful, and it cannot be reached to the level or certain level. Next approach is normative approach. The normative approach is otherwise known as the philosophical theory or ethical theory. In other words, it is a project of philosophical speculations about the values. The questions which are asked by normativists would be: what should be the end of political institutions? What should inform the relationship between individual and the other social organization? What arrangements in society can become model or ideal, and what rules and principles should govern it? Leo Stratus is one of the political scientists. He strongly advocates the normative theory and argued that political things by nature are subject to approval or disapproval, and it is difficult to judge them in any other term except as good or bad, and justice or injustice. But the problem with the normative is that while professing values which they cherish, they portray them as universal and absolute. He is of the opinion that we cannot, or he is of the opinion that he argued that political things by nature are subject to approval and disapproval. That means we may approve it or disapprove it, or also it very difficult to judge it also. There are some criticism level against the normative theory. The criticisms are relativity of values. That means the state depends on its existence. That means there are certain values, or the we need to depend upon that values for the existence of the states. Second thing is that cultural basis or ethical norms. It is criticized on the ground that cultural basis and ethical norms. Then third, on the ground that ideological content and enterprise. Last but not the least, it is a abstract and utopian nature of the project. That means it is idealistic. It is not possible in the real world situations. Now we come to the discussion, that is empirical approach. What is empirical approach? That means empirical observations are to be derived the drive of value free theory. That means in order to make the theory scientific, objective oriented, the empirical analysis is necessary. And this theory, also known as positivism theory in the political science. Political theorists, they apply scientific knowledge about the political phenomena based on different principles which could be empirically verified and proved. That means in empirical approach, or what happen in case of the science, that is if certain things to be done, then certain conclusions to be arrived. That is called the empirical approach. That means we have to prove a particular thing, that whether this is the logical conclusion or not. And in this way, empirical theory analyze. There are some, that means particularly speaking, the with the emerge of the behavioral revolutions, the empirical approach, this revolution reached the commanding positions in the 1950s, and it gives a boost to the area of political science and or the entire field of the study. They have described it in a different way, or political phenomenon are to be described in a scientific way, rather you may say scientific way, and reach to a conclusion. The empirical approach provide certain feature. First is encouragement to quantitative techniques in analysis. That means while analyzing data, we have to adopt the quantitative techniques to reach to a conclusions. And it was for the first time adopted by the behavioralist in the political science. Quantitative techniques are to be used to make analyze different data. Say for an example, election data. বুঝি পারছো কি না? Election data are to be analyzed by the researcher by adopting the quantitative techniques. That means the behavior of the individual or the political behavior of the individual are to be analyzed in a by applying the quantitative techniques and reach to a conclusion. Nowadays, you may see the different projections of the different research groups regarding the pre-poll elections, post-poll elections result. It is possible. How it will be possible? By analyzing the behavior of the individual, because as I have already stated you there, the behavior of the individual is always changeable. ତ କଥା ହେଲା ଯେ ପ୍ରତ୍ୟେକ ମଣିଷର ବ୍ୟବହାରଟା ଯଦି changing situation hai, how can you predict? Here you adopt the quantitative techniques to predict the particular or to reach to a particular conclusions. So these techniques were adopted by the behavioralist. That is, and next point is demolition of normative framework, promotion of empirical research which can be susceptible to statistical tests. That means scientific tools and techniques are to be adopted to analyze the data. Next point feature of behavioralism is that non-acceptance and rejection of the historical ideas. Until and unless we prove a particular thing, we cannot accept. Say for an example, in a science, if you went to the lab and test any type of salt, then that will give you a particular result. Different type of salts are available in the lab, and if you test a particular salt, then you know what is the result. If the result is come out, then you identify the particular salt as such and such. So that is the important aspects used by the behavioralist, that you have to apply the statistical data, empirical research have to be done to reach to a particular conclusion. Next point is that focus on micro study and more amenable empirical treatment. Again, political science focus on micro study. That means micro study are to be conducted for the analysis of data and to reach a particular conclusion. Next point is glorification of specializations. Specialization of knowledge is necessary to test all those data. Procurement of data from the behavior of the individual. It is also one of the feature. That means data are to be collected from the behavior of the individual. A group of individuals is taken for the collection of data, and on the basis of the availability of data or the individual behavior, we have to reach to a particular conclusions. That means we must have to make a scientific approach towards the analysis of data. And last but not the least is value-free research. Value-free research is necessary for the empirical research. And if all these features are adopted, then we come to a definite conclusion like that of the scientific approach where we reach to a conclusion with certain experiments. Next is contemporary approach. Contemporary political theory made its appearance on the intellectual sense in the 1980s and 1990s. That means after behavioralism, there is because human nature is always dynamic. As you know, you have studied in your plus 2 level that human nature is always dynamic or dynamic means changeable. ସବୁବେଳେ ମଣିଷର ପ୍ରକୃତିଟା ଚେଞ୍ଜେବୁଲ so the human society cannot stops with the behavioralists. Next, the contemporary approach, that means the postmodern conditions come into existence after the behavioralism, and with certain new points or with certain new, that is your experiment, that is called the postmodern conditions. And postmodernism or the contemporary political theory, it comes in the 1980s or 1990s, and it is the reaction established against the traditional theory and put traditional theory and put the categories of enlightenment like reason and science to which the traditions in the political theory were tied. So, scratching and searching criticism. It will criticize different points of the different theories and put some new points or add some new point to the its own ideology. The broad thrust which brings many contemporary theorists and theories together, that means a common point of discussions is arise by the contemporary theorists. They are opposition to universalism, critique of grand narratives, post positivism, empirical and comparative, etc. So that means a common point of thrust is developed among the different postmodernist theorists together, and they are first, that is opposition to the universalism. That means they oppose to the universal principle or whatever universal principle were let be accepted by the political scientists was opposed by the contemporary political scientists. Next point is that the critique of grand narratives. That means both liberal and Marxist come under the fire to premise that there is no overreaching and transcendental foundations of reality and truth as claimed by the liberalism and Marxism. The postmodernists are forefront in attacking the grand narratives and argues that there is nothing like an objective pre-given reality or an objective social good which can support such grand narratives and their designs. Next is your post positivism. It is one of the point where many of the political scientists also agreed. That means the contemporary theories call them value free. Unless we are value free, or unless we develop a value free theory, we cannot lead to a conclusion which is supposed to offer prescription and vision of the for the future. Next point is empirical and comparative. The post positivist or postmodernist, they have a thrust among the contemporary theories. They do not stop themselves for the need of empirical and comparative approach before any generalization attempts is made. That means the multiculturalism is one of such example. Comparative methodology would be checked on the broad generalizations across the culture and the contents. That means comparative approach is developed among the political scientists to reach to a particular point. And in this way, the political philosophy, that is your first unit, what is political theory and approaches to the normative, and your, that is your empirical approach is ended, and we sum up with the idea that philosophy and science cannot replace each other. That means we have already discussed what is philosophy and what is science, and we cannot replace each other. That's all for the today. Any doubts? Hello. Make a thorough study of this unit. Thoroughly tome mane padho. Then if you find any difficulty, then you may raise questions in the next class, so that I have to try my level best to clarify some of your doubts with regard to the discussions made today. तमर मानकर जदि केनसी प्रकार डाउट अच्छे, are you listening to me? Hello.
Yes, sir.
केनसी प्रकार जदि डाउट अच्छे, you go through the all these points, whatever study material provided to you, and in the next class we shall discuss about the different doubts which you have to raise, or you raised, whether you understand it or could not able to understand, so that I will try my level best to get you understand. Okay, बुझीगला?
हाँ सर.
कि बुझबार किसी प्रॉब्लम हो कि इंग्लिश और ओडिया मिसई करी कहमा?
हाँ सर, ओडिया और इंग्लिश मिसई करले आरे भलो.
अच्छा, आरे भलो हो नहीं कि? अच्छा ठीक अछि, ताहले माने I will try my level best to speak some Odia in between the teachings. Odia रे किसी कहबार ले मुझे चेष्टा करबी, so that you can understand the different topics, because political science theory, particularly political theory, it is one of the very difficult one to get it understand, and once it is internalized, that means it is very easier for everyone. थोड़े खाली बुझवार दरकार है theory टा काना है, rather it is very difficult. ଅନ୍ୟ ତୁମର କେନ୍ସି ବି ଚେପ୍ଟର କିମ୍ବା କେନ୍ସି ବି ୟୁନିଟ୍ ପଢ଼ବାର୍ଟା ଭେରି ଇଜି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଥିଓରିଟା ବୁଝବାର୍ଟା ଏଇଟା ହେଉଛି ମାନେ ଦିସ୍ ଏ ଜିନିଷଟା ଭେରି କ୍ରିଟିକାଲ। ତେଣୁକରି ମାନେ go through the thorough discussions, thorough reading, and come in the next class which we may have in our 11th probably. So we may discuss regarding your doubts. Okay?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Can we leave, sir?